Hello, everyone. This is Jing. Welcome to another AM school community. Today, we have the privilege to have Tony Caldwell. He's our guest. We'll let him to do a quick introduction before he go into what he wants to talk about.
All right. Thanks, Gene. Look, I am really super honored to be here. Number one, I love your updated background with the wealth on wheels. That is such a visual. It really helps people understand where they're going, right? I'm a executive leadership coach, storyteller, and fourth and fifth level thinker. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right, Gene? We're going to talk about fifth level thinking.
Definitely.
So a little bit of background on me. I enlisted in the Army in 1988, long time ago. The gray hair and the beard proves that. I always tell people gray beards are a badge of honor, so I'm not getting rid of it. I earned this. I enlisted in the Army in 1988, and I had a couple of different jobs. And one of them, I was our commander's driver. And he kept telling me, and I love General Wofford to today and stay in touch with the man. He kept telling me that I could be more, and I didn't see it in me. And he had that talent, right? He grew out the best of it. He convinced me, actually, he told me I was going to go to the officers' candidate school, which is where they take sergeants and turn them into lieutenants. And so the Army is known as a Mustang because there are not a lot of us in the Army. It's a very small population of officers that were privates and sergeants before becoming officers. And that's something a lot of people don't know. So it made me stand out in the crowd. I ended up retiring in 2015. So I had about 27 years of service. And the last 11 of those, I was in the Pentagon. And a lot of people get to the Pentagon and the first thing they do is, how do I get out? I had a young family. I was in a new marriage. I enjoyed the work and I enjoyed being able to stabilize my family. My kids got to stay in the same school. My wife got to build her career. So that's one of the reasons I had such a long time. Most people, you say, I was in the Pentagon 11 years, and they're like, oh, what did you do wrong? I was very intentional about it. And the fourth and fifth order thinking is something that I learned in officers' candidate school, but I didn't know I learned it. When I got to the Pentagon, it was the biggest shift in thinking I've ever had. And that includes since I've retired, right? And I've worked in corporate, I've worked in banking, I've worked with nonprofits, I'm an entrepreneur now. None of those transitions or shifts were as hard and as big as that. And here's why. The first half or so of my career, I was very tactical thinker. What do we need to do? How do we need to do it? When you get to the strategic level, you're no longer thinking about what do we do? How do we do it? You're thinking about what do we need to do in 4 or 5 years? I got to the Pentagon in 2004. And really early on, I got to work with a team that was working on what they called Army 2010. In 2004, we were thinking about 2010.
No.
What were the threats out there? What was the geopolitical environment going to be? We thought, what would the economy look like? What would technology look like? And how do all those things feed to what we need to become? And that's where one of my early bosses threw out the phrase, fourth and fifth level thinker. And he was angry at us. In our team meeting, there's about a dozen of us on the team. And he's like, all of you are thinking 30, 60, 90 days. That's only first level thinking. And of course, we're looking at him like, we're all really smart. You hired us up here. Like, dude, what are you telling me? He said, I need fourth and fifth level thinkers. And what he laid out for us, and this was late 2004, probably about this time of year, things had slowed down at the office. So it's kind of the holiday season, right? And what he showed us, and something your group and your listeners may not relate to as well as I do. In the Army, we do everything on whiteboards. We have rooms full of whiteboards and markers, and people talk and write at the same time when we draw things out. And what he drew out for us was how he showed how one decision leads to 244 possible outcomes. And that hurts your head to think about. You go, how do I get there? But I want your listeners, if you take away nothing else today, folks, every decision has 3 possible outcomes: positive, a neutral, and a negative. And for what he was teaching us in the Army, we called them courses of action. And we would, hey, Gene, if you were my commander, I would come to you and go, hey man, you want to buy this tank. Here's 3 courses of action to get you there. we would always give the boss 3 courses of action, 3 possible ways to get to their objective. In a very tactical sense, we need to own that hill. We need to take that hill. I can go straight at it. I can come around from one side and come up behind, or I can call in an airstrike, take anybody off the top of that hill, and then I can just walk up there. Courses of action. So any decision you make has 3 possible outcomes: positive, neutral, negative. For each of those decisions, we needed to present him 3 courses of action. So if we have a positive outcome, here are the 3 courses of action to do the next thing. Neutral outcome, 3 courses of action. Negative outcome, 3 courses of action. And then we could use that second level. We're already at 9 outcomes. This is hard to learn to do. Learned it in officers candidate school and didn't realize it, because they were teaching us to be lieutenants. And lieutenants in the Army are responsible for a lot of things, they're responsible for a lot of people, but they operate at a very tactical level. That's your platoon leader. That's the guy or gal that runs your motor pool. That's the guy or gal that's running your personnel show. Very small center of influence, it feels. And they make really tactical day-to-day decisions. Okay? What they were teaching us is to think beyond that. If we're going to go take that hill, and we're going to do an airstrike to take that hill, because that has the lowest number of possible casualties, and that's what we want, what do you have to do to get that airstrike ready? Who owns that airplane or helicopter? How long out do you have to coordinate with it? What's the weather going to be? Can you tell them what's on top of that hill so they know how to arm that aircraft? Because there's different types of munitions, some for people, some for bunkers, some for buildings, right? What do they need on that aircraft? How do you coordinate with it? Who do you talk to set the time up? All of those follow-on decisions that you had to think about, we were learning to think everything through to a very small level of detail. You get to the Pentagon, that level of detail is not applied at that type of detail level. Now it's if we want to buy more tanks, where does the money come from? And when your budget is fixed, like the federal budget is for the military, that means if I need $2 billion, where do I go to get that money? Who do I take that money away from? What impact does that have on their program? How many different programs do I have to rob Peter to pay Paul from? If I'm getting new tanks and I've got the money, I need people to put on those tanks. Where do I get those people from? If I'm recruiting those people, now I have to work with the recruiters to go find the population that qualifies to be on the tank and wants to be on the tank. So now do we need to play bonus money? Do we need to change contracts for tankers? Oh, and by the way, they all have to be trained. So now I have to work with the basic training boards to open up slots for people to come in. Now I have to work with the training center for tank driver to open school slots to teach them. You see how complex this gets really quick?
Yes, very true.
Oh, yeah. And I think, so for me, that was huge in my life, learning to think everything through. And that's really what 4th and 5th order thinking is. It's not magic, it's hard.
And then people don't teach this. You have to learn at specific situation, like what you are sharing to the audience.
When I work with, again, I'm an executive coach advisor. When I work with clients on this topic, we have worksheets that we work through. And sometimes it's a scenario that maybe I found from another client. I worked with a nonprofit recently who wanted to raise salaries for one team and only one team. And it's a non-revenue generating team. But they're having difficulty hiring the right people because the other nonprofits that do similar work have a slightly higher pay balance. And look, we were talking $60,000, which in my Army budget would have been less than a rounding error. Okay? Like we would have lifted a couch cushion on $60,000. I could walk down the hall and somebody would give it to me. But in the small business, especially a nonprofit, that's a huge amount of money. That's equivalent to another person. So that leader and I worked through her 3 options, what those could lead to. And look, we didn't get to all 244 possible outcomes. The first level of thinking is very tactical. The second level, where we get to 9 options, is operational. Something your audience needs to think about in their own lives, their own business, is how often they get past that level. Because most of us stop. Okay.
Most of us, because we were not trained. We don't even think that way.
Right. Where I like to call the third level of thinking strategic. because 9 options times 3 gets us to 27. Most people, and look, not every situation is going to lead you to 27 possible outcomes. Some of them do dead end. But if we terminate a person, we do set off a chain of events. We have to re-advertise for the person. We have to find the right person. Maybe we do need to adjust our payroll. Maybe we need to adjust our benefits. We need to fix it. We might have to make some other changes. What do we do with the work of that person that we terminated? Because it's going to take us 4 to 6 months to find the right person. It's going to take another 2 to 3 to get that person up to speed. Even if Gene walks into my company completely qualified, we do think that we have a culture that we need to assimilate you into. And the culture is the 4th level. When you get beyond that 3rd level of thought, and this is where business leaders, I think, and this is where the clients I work with are go, that 4th level of thinking begins to change your organization's culture and even its DNA. Yeah. When you start thinking beyond strategic, beyond how do we hit this month's goals, beyond how do we have our KPIs and OKRs for the quarter, on the year, now we're talking about the systems we're using, the people we bring in, how we assimilate each other, how we bond together, what's the DNA of this organization. And it becomes, that's where how many times have any of us been in a big office and behind the reception desk, we see their value statement, or we see their core values, right? Those core values are coming in at this level change. How does this 4th level decision support that?
Yeah, the higher level. Like the MVP, mission, vision, value.
Mission, visions, values. Yes, exactly. How do you get beyond mission to where your vision is to live your value? I understand company cultures are very tactical, and we see those on the front line. We see them with our lieutenant center sergeants. We see them with our customer-facing people. But if we're not making decisions as leaders, as CEOs, owners, founders, if we're not making those decisions, supporting our 4th level, we can't influence and control what our culture is at our client-facing. And that's really where we fall apart. Finally, the 5th level, that's the legacy. You talk about wealth on wheels and being the Altus Millionaire Club, and you've done a lot of work around tax-free millionaires, all those things. That's the legacy, right? That's where you're moving your clients to. You're on the vision into the legacy. What does my decision today do for my grandchildren and their families? And I think that's where this applies for the people that are in your school and the people you work with.
Exactly. I agree. Especially when we first talk, I've never heard of 4th and 5th level of thinking. And it triggers me to invite you to this podcast or the interview. I want our audience to really think deeper. And that's what I always just think long term. But for your teaching, it's going deeper. It's just prolong the time horizon, because I tell people whatever we do now is to help the future us, the future Jane, future Tony, when we're in our 80s or even 90 or over 100. But then I just prolong the time. But now I think what you are showing us is we could actually go deeper, go to the 4th, even 5th level.
Right. Prolonging time is an excellent way to think about it. So what am I doing today that sets me up? I'm not sure I want to live to 100.
I don't even think that's possible.
Another turns 89 soon. He lives independently on a 2nd floor apartment. I see myself living that far. I don't think I want to make 100. But the decisions I make financially today have got to be those 4th and 5th level decisions that support me getting there.
To that point.
I have 10 grandkids.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
5 kids, 10 grandkids, not evenly distributed. I've got to leave a legacy for them beyond simply Bob died and left us his house. There has to be something there for them. So I think this fits really well with what you're doing with your clients over that long term. Because they're not going to get to the long term making 1st and 2nd order decisions.
For sure.
And when you and I talked originally, the first time you and I met, I listened to you talk and I thought, he's doing this and doesn't know it. Congratulations on being able to do this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I just have the urgency, especially after turning 40. And it's just every year. Like now, we're almost saying goodbye to 2025. 2026 is going to be right around the corner. So before we know it, probably it's 2030 or 2035. So every year goes by so quickly.
I remember being in school. I was born in 64. I remember being in elementary school, my teachers talking about how old we would be at the year 2000. And I couldn't envision being in my 30s. And I know a lot of your clients, like I just said, I can envision being 100 now. A lot of your clients can envision being 60, right? So I think it's great though. Gina gave me kind of a list of thought ideas and questions she felt might be beneficial to her key audience. So I really love the one you started with, like, what's the key difference between military and business approaches to the center of gravity? When I talk to the REITs, I use center of gravity as an analogy. In the military, we talk about the opponent's center of gravity. And you can see how Ukraine did this early after Russia invaded. They knew that they could not go one-on-one against a superior force. What did they do? They went after their center of gravity. They went after where the commanders live and used drones to attack those and push those people further from which made decisions harder to make. They went after logistics points of how are the Russians getting their fuel. If we take out a fuel depot, that makes that process longer and harder. In businesses, I think too often we look at our business in terms of what's our weakness instead of our strength. And you can watch football teams do this. You'll hear the announcer say they have a great running game. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play to their strength. If you have a basketball player that's really good at defending the goal, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to play defense. And they're going to make you work harder to score, right? I think business leaders look too often at what are we doing wrong and there is room for that. You need to do that. Don't misunderstand. But a business leader might look out and go, hey, I own this pizza chain. We've got 4 restaurants, but Johnny's Pizza down the road promises 30 minutes in delivery. And look, let's just be real honest. Do you want a pizza from your favorite restaurant where you sit down and eat and it's a really great pizza, or do you want Little Caesars hot and fast? Not the greatest pizza experience, right?
Yeah.
Cheap, it's quick, you can grab it on the way home. There's a point to it, there's a purpose, there's success. But if you're taking your family out for a nice dinner, you're going on a date, you don't want Little Caesars. So if you're not Little Caesars and you're in the pizza space, your center of gravity is the customer experience, the better food, a higher quality of product. Focus there and think about, how do I make what I'm doing well? How do I do it? Is it more quality? Is it a different vendor that's bringing me a better quality cheese? Do I tweak my sauce to make it? Those are the things that I think businesses too often don't focus on. They don't look at their center of gravity and how do I exploit my own center of gravity.
That's good. Yeah. The next question we have is, based on your experience, right? You talk to a lot of business owners. Where do business owners most commonly fail to safeguard their organization's core identity and values? What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is we chase the shiny thing.
A lot of people, including me.
A lot of business owners chase the shiny thing. I was talking to a business owner recently who is really trying to figure out how to use AI in his business, because AI is what everyone's talking about, right?
Yes.
When we really started digging out and picking his business apart and pulling his layers out, his key differentiating factor, AI can't help, because his core identity and values are the people he hires. He hires people, and this is a real estate, he hires people who he thinks can and want to own their own real estate company later. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need AI to increase his customer experience. He needs to get the right people in the door that he can then train, show them everything about his business. And this is an older gentleman who's getting ready to sunset this career. He's really energetic, very driven. He's going to go do something else. He says he's not, but he will. Okay, I can see it in him. And you meet these people and say, right, oh, I'm going to retire. And 6 months later, hey, yeah, I'm doing this now. I retired from the Army a decade ago. I don't think I've been able to work 2 weeks. But I think that's where they most commonly, they either chase the shiny object or they get away from the core values that they started. When you do that, your clients, your customers will notice. I recently saw a thing on Panera Bread where they had made their sandwiches smaller and they had used lesser ingredients in their salads. Because the big thing is that 2 for 1, you get half a sandwich and a salad, get it to go for lunch. Their clients noticed that very quickly. Cracker Barrel's another example, and I don't know how much was noise and how much was truth, but they got away from their core identity. A simple logo change caused a 30% stock drop. The way they do that is, it happens because you get so involved in chasing the shiny thing, making the tactical decision, how do I return value today versus how do I return value consistently over the next 3, 5, 7 years? How do I bring in a client today that doesn't ever go look for my product anywhere else?
Yeah, the stickiness, why they come back.
And I think that's a big deal in a lot of spaces.
Yeah. So any practical steps you can think about to help leaders maintain the 4th and 5th order integrity during the rapid change?
I think, first off, you have to understand what your business is. You have to understand where you want your business to go. Some small business owners, and the under 5 million, the 5 million to 20 million, however you want to define that, I'll leave that to you and your audience. Some small business owners get in it because they have passion and they want to do this for the rest of their life. Some get in because they want to build a company that their children can inherit. Some get in because they want to raise the top line value really fast and sell out. I want to bring a new soft drink to market. I want to drive it real hard. I want to get a lot of top line value, a lot of shelf placement, and then sell off to one of the big soda makers. Understand what your intent is for the business. Build a plan. And I know one of the things you and I had talked about on the questions here. I love Eisenhower made a statement when he was commanding general of Europe. Plans are nothing, but planning is everything. And you work with your clients, you build a plan, and we know that plan's going to change so many times because of the outside environment, the planning of it. And I think that's where business leaders get so caught up in. Holiday season's coming up. Half my staff is going to burn up all their PTO that they didn't burn all year. How do I do that? How do I cover the call desk? How do I greet clients? All that, because they get so tangled up in that when they really need to be thinking about holiday 2026. If our business grows the way I want it to, how do I handle next holiday season? How do I handle the holidays in 27? Because I've got this upward growth trajectory and I've got a problem this year. Yes, I need to fix this problem, but if my growth trajectory really holds, 27, it's going to be a much bigger problem. Maybe I need to tell people you can't forward your PTO. And I did this in corporate America, right? I held on to my PTO till December, took a whole month as best I could. I wanted one thing, right? Put a policy in that says you can't do that. That you need to spread your PTO out over the course of the year. Do those kind of things. But that's where I think always knowing where you want to go and always having a way to get there. And every tactical decision gets challenged by the future. If I do this today, if I tell Jean she can take the rest of this, if I tell Jean, yes, you can take the whole December off, we don't need you. Nobody needs Wealth on Wheels all December. Thinking about Santa Claus and everything else. How does that tactical decision affect 2027? Because if Jean just started with me in January of 25 and she's held on to all of her PTO and now she's going to take all of it in December, she's going to do that again next year. I've just set a standard. I've set a norm and I've created an expectation. And when Jean is on a team of 6 and they all look at her and go, wow, she got the whole month of December, there's going to be 2 or 3 in that team of 6 that start doing exactly what you did. Yeah, and now we go 6, half my team missing. And how do I operate on half a team? What does that do to the other team members? That's the DNA of my company.
Yes.
That's a decision. Does that make sense? Or am I off base?
It does, especially for the leaders, right? You lead a team and you want to put people in the team towards the same goal. If you don't have the vision, if you don't have all the SOPs, all the expectations set up, it's very hard to manage. Managing people probably is one of the hardest things.
I love people and every job would be great if I didn't have to deal with people.
But you have to. We all live in the world with people. There's all the human interaction. Yeah.
And I say that jokingly. As an executive coach, I love people. I love helping people increase their impact. That's my goal.
Yeah.
Increased impact. And you do that by and this is where it gets hard, and this is where you have to practice. Every decision, you've got to think about that future vision at the 5th level. And maybe it doesn't track out far. Maybe giving you Friday off doesn't really track it. But it does track to the 2nd and 3rd level. So at least think that far. Get to be a strategic thinker first.
Let's talk about routines and rituals, right? We all know successful people. You hear a lot of people saying, I'll get up at 4:30, 5:30 and go to the gym and set up the tone of your day. What's your thinking about routines and rituals to support what's your
after doing physical fitness tests twice a year for 27 years, ever see me running, just get ahead of me. Because I will never run again. It has to be a shooting at the mall or an explosion, something like that to make me run. Okay. People who are physically fit do perform better. All the science tells them. Your mind's sharper, clearer. I would tell you that routines are highly individualized. I'm not going to run anymore. I used to run 3 to 6 miles a day. Okay. I could wake up in the morning and unannounced run 2 miles in about 14 and a half, 15 minutes into my 50. Okay. For me, whereas it relates to this and having your routines, if you want to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go to the gym and that works for you, great. If you want to go to bed at 9 o'clock and get good sleep hygiene, that's great. Eliminate alcohol, eliminate nicotine, all those things really great for your health. Do what, in conjunction with your physician, do what is right for you. Business leader, where it comes to this, I think you need to end your day in block the time off. If it's 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 7, whatever your time is, right? Block the last hour of your day. Reflect on what you did today and judge it against your future. Did the things I do today support where I'm going? Yeah. And then line up what you're doing tomorrow, right? You can get a lot done in a year, but it's hard to get a lot done in a day, kind of thing. And we always think we get more done in a day. We can't. Prioritize tomorrow. At some point this afternoon, I'm going to sit down and go, here are the 2 things I've got to get done. Here are the 3 things I've got to get done. That's where I put my energy. Jing may ping me and go, Tony, can you hop on a quick call? I need to judge that quick call as profitable as talking to you can be. I need to judge that 15-minute non-planned event. Again, what do I want to do in Q1 on 26? And how does that impact what I'm doing this time next year? Like when you and I hopped on this call, I'd already thought about what does this mean? How can I leverage this conversation for next year, first quarter? Is there a way to do a workshop with you, kind of thing, right? The business mind. But I'm also thinking about next year. Do you and I need to come back in 26 and talk about this again? Those kind of things from a business standpoint. Well, I'm telling every business leader, at the end of the day, look at what you got done, look at the decisions you made, look at what your people did. How does that drive us forward? What could we do better tomorrow morning? And then spend some time at the end of that going, what am I doing tomorrow? And judge all of that the same way. The 3 things I'm going to do tomorrow. How do they drive next year? How do they drive me? I'm 61 years old. I want to retire at 70. How does what I'm doing tomorrow set that retirement up in that year?
Yeah, the intention is very important. Please set aside that 1 hour, 30 minutes, whatever you decide.
Whatever you need, and I'm not going to give anybody a formula, right? Because it's different. Do what you need for the amount of time you need. The one thing I'll tell you have to do, you've got to challenge it against your future self, against your future. If you go to the gym to work out, you've got that goal. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to get a ripped abdomen at the swimming pool next year. I'm going to have big arms, whatever it is. You've got to have the same thing in your business and in your personal life.
Definitely.
By 27, I want to turn this business over to somebody else. And I want to be a real CEO and get out of the day-to-day operations. How did what I do today, how's what I'm doing tomorrow get me there?
Definitely.
And 3 different outcomes, 3 different options for each of those outcomes, and then think that through. And I encourage people just to draw it. I have a small whiteboard. It's like 2 foot. I draw on that thing all day. I have a whiteboard that covers my keyboard that I scribble on all day. Pull it up, draw it, physically see it, and use that as a map.
Yeah, put it as a visual imprint in your mind instead of just thinking.
And I always encourage my clients to write on paper.
Yeah, I do that too.
All the things it does to your head is so much more proficient than typing. But you brought up something earlier about the 4th level thinking. I want to throw this example at you real quick. Remember when Steve Jobs first introduced the iPod to play music? That's all it did, right?
Yes.
Really fancy music player. And after that, and there were other music players out there that were actually better, like different formats of music. Microsoft had one that played at AM/FM radio stations. The reason the iPod is successful is because Steve Jobs wasn't thinking about getting you to listen to music. He was already thinking, if I can get them to listen to music on this device, then I can sell them a better device that has a phone on it, that has a camera, that lets them make short videos, that connects to Wi-Fi so they can email those videos, they can text those videos. See, that's 4th order thinking. Yeah. Does anybody think about an iPod today? Does anybody think about Apple computer today? Not really. What they think about is their iPhone and their iWatch. All of that is because Steve Jobs thought ahead. This is what I want to have everybody in my ecosystem. I want everybody. And it doesn't matter if you're an Android or people call it get your iPhone out. And you think, I have an Android, but you pick it, right?
Yes.
We changed the DNA and culture of that with an iPhone. And in the 5th order, the legacy order, he changed how our country thinks. Because prior to the iPod, you didn't need it.
Yeah.
And today you can't do it without that smart.
Yeah, that's pretty much like a personal small computer right on your head.
Your smartphone has more computing power than NASA had when we put people on the moon. Right? And we use it to play Angry Birds, but that's a different topic. My point is, that's the level of thinking that gets people, that's that fourth level of thinking that changes the culture, changes DNA, and creates a legacy of an entire country using smartphones.
Yeah, that's a very classic example to really think forward, the fourth and fifth degree of thinking. So I know we have the time limit. If people want to reach out to you, I know you listed a 2326 group. What's the meaning of that name?
A couple of versions here. One, when I was brainstorming this and wanted to do it, I had partners. It was an entrepreneur that your partners often vaporize on you. That's where we got the Greek from. There was going to be a few of us, and it turned out to be just me. And frankly, I like it better that way, to be honest. 2326 is the house number of my two favorite places I've ever lived. And I don't know many people that have ever had the same house number twice in their life.
No, never to me.
And I operate on faith a lot. I lean into my faith. And my wife and I always talk about, if you're going through the desert and a burning bush starts to talk to you, you should probably shut up and listen, because it's probably God talking to you. And as I was on the LLC website for North Carolina trying to find a good one that didn't sound like marriage counseling or group therapy or whatever, I realized that 2326, I'd had it twice. And I loved both of those groups.
That's nice.
And I thought, okay, 2326 group is who my group was going to be. They all bought into it, and then they all went away. So yeah, 2326 group. Down the road, I'll hire some other people. For now, I like it the way it is.
That's nice. So when we have the description of this video, we'll have all your contact information. I saw the QR code there as well. So if it's something you really want to dig in and really want to learn, which will have a huge impact in your company, your financial life, reach out to Tony. I think he has the profound experience and he's really passionate about this topic. Any final words to the audience?
Look, I'd love to work with you one-on-one or at your company with your leadership team on this. I just want to challenge everybody for the next 2 days. Practice thinking about, if I make this decision, what are the consequences? What are the options? And what consequences could come from those options? Practice it for 2 days, see how it feels. And then shoot me a note and say, hey, it works great or it doesn't work. I'd love to get your feedback on it, and just look forward to engaging your audience going forward.
Definitely. And put it on paper. So your mind, and this is what in your mind, and you put it on paper. You can read it. You can see it.
You can action it.
Exactly. That's great. I really appreciate your time, Tony, and it's a fabulous interview. And I hope, audience, you enjoyed this as well. We'll invite more people to come to this AMC Live. So let's hope people can really think about fourth and fifth order before they make that decision, to really have that forward thinking skill. And that's something you don't want to miss. You want to master that skill, and reach out to Tony as well. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Tony, for your time.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.